Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about Donald Trump's surprise decision not to seek removal. Nearly everyone, and I'm certainly in this crowd, had expected that he would, but that he would wait till the very last day, which is today, to move for removal. So in terms of the delaying strategy, it is no real surprise that he would today or yesterday tell the court, hey, I'm not going to remove. But the decision itself, I think, is more interesting and complex. That you have some commentators out there saying, well, look how Meadows was beat up and Meadows had to testify and Trump wouldn't want to testify. All that, of course, is true. But it's not consistent with the way Trump thinks about things. He takes all these long shots. And of course, it's, if nothing else, as president of the United States, the argument that there should have been removal even for these, breathtakingly ultra-virus acts as fomenting an insurrection, there would be an argument there for appeal. So I conclude that the argument that people are making, it was such a long shot for him, doesn't hold up. That in fact, in saying he doesn't want to move, he has expressed a preference and a decision for being in state court. Others are out there disagreeing, so you can decide for yourselves. But, in general, what's the downside for Trump if he really would prefer to be in federal court? Okay, so I conclude that he would prefer to be in state court. There's one asterisk here. This gets a little complicated, a little quick, but let's say Meadows wins his 11th Circuit appeal and the court holds that Meadows himself should have been removed. We're then in an unsettled area, and there's an argument that the entire crowd of 17, remember Chesbrough and Powell are going sooner because of their speedy trial petitions in Georgia, that the whole 17 are decamp to federal court. It's a not fully settled question under Georgia and federal law. Still, to me, the idea that he was thinking, well, I can ride Meadows' coattails doesn't fly unless there's, particular downsides to giving it a shot on his own, which, if nothing else, could potentially, depending on how complicated it gets, you can imagine something like this even going to the Supreme Court, that would be just made to order for Trump because of the delay. So I don't buy the arguments of like, oh, what the hell, it's a long shot. That's not Trumpian thinking to me. All right, what is Trumpian thinking? Well, first and foremost, it's not pretty to say, but this is the former president. You have on the one hand a state court judge, Judge McAfee, who is a Republican, very young, a Federalist Society member, and up for election in 2024. So potentially, again, got to put on your Trump hat, and your software for Trump Think gives some basis for influence, popular influence, even though Fulton County, where he runs from, is overwhelmingly Democrat. On the other, Judge Jones, African-American, by all accounts, from early on in Trump land, that matters to Trump. And it's, he either is racist himself or concludes that African-American judges will view him more harshly. But an Obama appointee, that's big for him. It's, basically when he thinks about judges, who appointed them, maybe what race are they, et cetera, and their performance to date. And to date, Jones hasn't been warm and fuzzy to the Trump side. So that's one really concrete difference that might have caused Trump to say, I would rather be in state court. On that reasoning, it's not just, oh, what the hell, I won't win, but like, okay, I'll take my chances on state court. Now, I want to say that this shouldn't impugn the credibility of McAfee the way we've talked about, say, Judge Cannon. To my mind, we've only seen him a little bit, but he's been exemplary. I see no reason for Trump reliably to conclude that McAfee would be in the tank for him or anything close to it. But again, that's not Trump think. Okay, so the most obvious difference would be the judge. What else is out there? Well, the desire not to have to push the removal motion in federal court. Now, remember, the person who wants to be removed bears the burden, so Trump would have to go forward. It doesn't mean he'd have to testify, and I'm invoking, I should really get an embroidered sign. Axiom number 1, Trump will not testify. But I think if he moved for removal, he wouldn't testify. That makes it harder. But as I'm suggesting, long shot, that wouldn't deter Trump. But in order to make the removal claim, he's got to in some way project or preview his defense. It's a 2-part test, and the second one is a colorable federal defense. And it may not be much of a surprise. Indeed, he's moved in the last 24 hours for continuances in both Mar-a-Lago and in both federal cases, one for 2 months and one for 3 months. And in one of them, he's referred to the different motions he wants to bring. For example, immunity, which would be a federal defense if it were colorable. I think it probably wouldn't and shouldn't be, but that's a real issue. So he could try to push that in removal, whether or not he takes the stand. So I also don't buy the argument that you're seeing out there. Hey, maybe he didn't want to testify the way Meadows had to, and it backfired for Meadows. Surely did backfire for Meadows, but Trump wouldn't have to do it. Wouldn't that make it a longer shot? Yes. See principle 2 after axiom 1, which is, so what? He takes nothing but long shots all the time, and it serves up, potential political talking points as well as potential issues on appeal. So I don't buy that reason either, that he just wanted to avoid it. I've heard some suggestion he wants to be on TV. That's the third big difference. What are the differences? You remember this from federal and state court if he's removed. A little more than slightly better jury pool in federal court. It's drawn from a bigger area, including more pro-Trump areas versus Fulton County itself, which is like 70% Biden. That's one thing. Of course, that obviously cuts against his decision here. It's a reason he would want to be in federal court. And TV. So I've also heard, and he loves a stage and he could make a circus of TV. That also doesn't cut it to me, because what does a defendant really have to do, even if he's Donald Trump, during trial proceedings? Sit there impassively. Indeed, every time Trump at trial would, glower or sweat or, madly consult his lawyers, that would be the TV moment at 6 o'clock. It would tend to amplify whatever is going on the stand. There's some reason to think that Trump will just try to absent himself from the trial, generally. But so then, if it's on TV, you have the killer piece of testimony and pan to the empty chair. Also not a good look. So let me put it this way, that's a real difference. You can see, maybe as a matter of Trumpian logic, that he would think, I'd rather this be on TV. If he is thinking that way, I think it's a miscalculation on his part. And the guy knows TV. So I am left with and it's, it's certainly consistent with everything we've seen about Trump all the way through, including at the first Eileen Cannon debacle, when they were talking about special masters and the like. He thinks, judges are really important because he thinks they don't apply the law, but they just smooth things over for the side they prefer, and they always prefer a side. That's just how things work in his world. And you have, on the one hand, Republican Federalist Society Young up for election state judge versus Obama appointee, African American, long time, so far rulings have gone against him on the other. And the last piece of evidence that tells me this is what he's thinking about is his unctuous motion itself, where he writes, "I told you that I might apply for removal. I'm not going to. Instead, I'm relying on the judge, you, Judge McAfee, because I have such faith in your ability to have a trial with due process, blah, 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 blah," trying to apply his Trumpian charms, such as they are, to the judge himself. So I think he's probably ridden off the possible success of a charm offensive against Judge Jones, but thinks maybe he can still work his wiles on Judge McAfee. So that, to me, is the best explanation, again, within the Trump world and the Trump mindset, a place I generally try not to go because that path lies madness, of what he's doing and why he made this definite surprise decision to say, you know what, I'll stick with state court. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.